Hello there, this is Rene again, and I want to give you an update, a final update on the MVP challenge which I undertook here in the month of May. The MVP challenge is a challenge that Microsoft posed to us, Microsoft Valuable Professionals, as MVPs, asking us to try to learn something new that we didn't really know before, looking at different areas, and I chose Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. As I said before, I've got some Power Platform experience, but I lacked a bit of knowledge when it comes to model-driven apps. And I also basically didn't know much about Dynamics 365. While I had some very high-level information and knowledge, I never went actually very deep into it further. So I knew that there are other things, but I didn't know much about them in more detail. So this month, I went and took that challenge, went through a range of Microsoft Learn modules, and here I am now, completed it finally. And here at the end now, I've got 40 out of 40 modules completed, and I would have 2 more days actually to do them, but luckily I didn't need them. So what is now my summary? What is now the outcome? What did I learn basically, and how did it go overall? So I went through those 40 modules, and generally speaking, they can be divided into a couple of different categories. So here you can see them. Accessibility fundamentals was something that I just did basically once again after I took that module once or twice already before. So just to refresh my mind, my memory about things, and it's good to look at it regularly. So nothing really from a technical point of view here where I say, oh, that was an issue. So it's more about how can you be more considerate towards others and create and share content with other people who might have, for example, visual impairments or other issues with, for example, consuming your content. Again, that was actually a general category, quite interesting content. And next thing was then the Power Platform fundamentals. Again, that was also relatively, new, not really new to me. That was relatively, common from my point of view. I took that module some time ago, took that actual fundamentals exam some time ago, and again I've been using the Power Platform, at least on a very basic level, for some of those things regularly then over the past few years. So just going through that again was just again making sure, there was nothing that I missed out, making sure that some of those fundamentals have been basically confirmed again, for example, Power Virtual Agents or Power Portals, for example, which I haven't used that much compared to, for example, Power Apps and Power Automate. Next up came then the whole lot of Dynamics 365 modules. So that was customer service, field service, marketing, finance, supply chain management, and sales. So a whole lot to learn. And that was really the trickiest part. And that's where I actually spent a lot of time, not just because the modules actually also expect you to actually do more hands-on activities, but also because I never actually worked with any of those technologies before in a lot of detail. I might have looked at it briefly before, but I never really did a deep dive. So that was really a real challenge. So how was it then overall? So I went through those modules. Again, my strategy was go inside a module. Let's pick, for example, here supply chain management, and then basically there are those that learning path, and then there are those individual modules. And inside those individual modules, we basically then go through it one by one here through those pages here. Some of them basically provide you with some very generic information. Some of them provide you with some further detailed information. Once you continue, you then see, okay, there's a lot of basic knowledge that gets shared so that you get a better understanding of what is that that Dynamics 365 component actually used for, how can you use it, and most importantly, what's the business case actually for using it, obviously. I mean, when you're using here, for example, the supply chain management part of Dynamics 365, there's a reason why you're using it, and you want to see basically how can you optimize your supply chain, how can you manage your purchase orders, how can you manage then returns, etc., etc. Now, one interesting thing here is then when you go through it here is, and let me just go to one more page, I think. No, that's a longer module, as you can see, unit 8 out of 12, and you can see they share some screenshots and a lot of information. That's why it took some time to go through. But here's now the interesting thing. So you also have the possibility then to actually do some hands-on exercises. And the good thing is you don't need to go into your own environment, try to set something up, etc. But rather you can use a virtual machine actually to complete it. And that virtual machine is accessible directly here in the browser, directly when you're here in that module. And that's really awesome. You don't need to set up your own Dynamics 365 instance, subscribe to it, set basically all the details up, set up your all the everything that's required to make your basically whatever you want to do. And when you then go here, you can just go in and say, for example, here we want to create a new purchase order. So I can easily say I want to launch that virtual machine, and basically you can see it's starting right away. I'm here in Edge, confirmed working. It connects me here to the virtual machine, and I can quickly then here say I want to log in here. Yep, I want to allow. Let's go in. And if we look over here in the instructions, it will also provide us with information about how can we log in, what do we need to do, etc. So we can see, for example, then there's a lot of information on how to go through that lab, and that's what you can do then directly here in the browser. And you can see there's nothing I actually had to do or install. I can use it directly here. So things are still starting up here, and I'm not going to go actually through that module here, but you can see I could now work directly in here and work with whatever is required here as part of the lab. Once I'm done, I can then say, yeah, I'm clicking here next for those additional instructions. And when I'm done, I simply click done, say yes. I'll go back to my module, and the VM basically gets shut down. It's no longer in use by me, done. And I can now continue with the module. Usually, for example, there's some further hands-on activities, or then there's that knowledge check. Again, if I want to go back again, for example, that purchase order that I was just testing, I want to test it again, I can just go back into that VM again and just do it over and over again if I want to play around a bit with it, test things, go beyond those steps that are provided, but maybe just try to do something differently. And that's really awesome. You've got that environment ready for you to be doing something, testing something, and really, again, learning something by doing those hands-on activities. So when you're planning, for example, to take a certification, that's basically the best way to prepare for it. Getting active and getting directly into Dynamics 365 and start doing things. So where are we right now? Basically, let me just jump back here. So I completed those 40 modules, and what's next for me? Basically, the outcome of going through all that content was that, I got now a relatively better understanding of what's available as part of those Dynamics 365 modules and what can be done there. I also realized that a lot of it is very specific then obviously to business processes that I'm not really dealing with. In my daily work, I work with basically teams working in all parts of the business, not just, for example, as part of the logistics team or the marketing team or the finance team or the sales team or any other team, but all kinds of teams. And my daily work basically involves helping them to collaborate better, to work better together, helping them with those kind of solutions. So I don't see myself actually continuing much working here with Dynamics 365. However, I think it's still important for me to get that understanding of what can be done here. As an example, looking at, for example, where is it? I think further up, here we go. Looking at, for example, customer service components. Going through that module, I suddenly realized, hey, that's a great thing actually that we could potentially be using internally for one of the scenarios that I recently encountered where we were looking at something very specific. And I thought, hey, customer service might be a possibility here that could be used. So it's a technical solution that might be a good fit for that business issue that we're trying to solve. I'm not going to say it's the perfect fit. We still need to do the full review, obviously, making sure that, if you're going that route, is it definitely going to help us? What are the license costs? How can we support it? Etc., etc. But I got that additional knowledge now. I can now say, hey, there is that possibility. We should also look at it. Okay, so that's one step. What else am I going to do next with Dynamics 365? Probably not that much, as I said, so I'm not planning to take any further exams here. Gonna focus likely more on Microsoft 365, reevaluating again what kind of other exams I'm missing there. Other than that, again, I'm still planning to come back here to Dynamics 365 from time to time, just to make sure that whenever there's something new, that I basically get the that understanding of what can it be used for. I may not fully know actually how to use it in detail, but at least I know, hey, for these kinds of scenarios, that's where I'm planning, or that's where it could be used. So talking about a lot right now after a spicy dinner causes me to cough. What else did I learn? One other important thing is, again, and I just mentioned that slightly only, so going through that content really requires some time. So while we could see now, for example, I just looked at the supply chain management module where we saw, okay, there are, for example, or that learning path includes a couple of different modules, and those modules here, they contain a couple of different pages. And sometimes really just takes some time, especially when you jump into a VM and, like me, for example, you do quickly the exercise, but then you also want to check some other things. Hey, if I had done something differently, if I changed the drop-down value here, or if I create an additional purchase order, or those kind of things, basically, you can spend a bit more time there. That's why I think it also took me a bit longer now to get things completed, because sometimes it says, oh, it takes you 38 minutes to complete it. And while I go through some of those modules much quicker, when it comes to exercise, suddenly I'm not just spending 10 minutes there, but suddenly it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. So still important to do that, I think, and happy that I actually did that. So what's next? Other than that, I'm happy that I completed it. I'm gonna share that collection that I created, so that if you're interested in also looking at all the learning paths and modules that I did, if you want to follow them, undertake them, etc., they'll be shared here as well, so they can also have a look at it. Yeah, that's basically it from me. That was an interesting month, and looking forward to learning something more new again in the upcoming months as well. Looking at what's next, basically. After you completed something, I rarely actually stop on learning something new. So next for me will be looking at data fundamentals exam, planning to take that now in June. So a couple of weeks now to prepare, 2-3 weeks, and then gonna schedule that exam for the second half of June. That's gonna be quite an exciting month again. It's been a while since I was working with some data fundamentals. So since I was working, for example, with SQL, and basically it will be quite interesting to make sure, hey, how much did I forget? How much do I still remember? And what else is there actually that I maybe knew on a high level or heard of before, but never really dived into? All right, that's been now nearly 15 minutes of me talking. Either way, thank you for listening to me, and hope you actually gained a little bit of insights from me here as well. Thank you. See you again.